Hello and welcome. I'm here with Adam Jansen, longtime Proto competitor. Adam, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Okay, you are the captain of Team Hotsauce Games, and you told me that you like to, bring something a little spicy, a little different. What are you playing this weekend?
I'm playing a Mono-Black Aggro deck. It's similar to some of the black-red decks that have been floating around on Magic Online. It's a little lower to the ground, a little more streamlined.
Okay, so the black-red aggro decks have a lot of black cards, and then they're splashing for Lightning Strike and Hazoret, which
Yes.
you are just not touching.
Yes. Excluding those cards allows me to focus more on the early game. I have more small creatures. The mana base is a little bit smoother. The omission of Hazoret actually allows you to play fewer lands as well.
Okay, did you have a specific target in mind when building this deck? Did you want to beat Temur or want to beat other aggro decks?
I actually like the Temur matchup, and I figured that would be fairly prevalent here. So that was mainly what we were targeted towards with the deck.
Okay, it has been pretty popular here. So let's take a look at the cards in your deck. We have the 1-drops here. Of course, Bone Picker costs 4, but if a creature died this turn, it costs only 1. And walk us through what you're trying to achieve with these cards.
Okay, so basically you have a lot of 1-drops. The 1-drops are what allow you to have your extremely aggressive starts. Sometimes you're playing a 1-drop into 2 more 1-drops or into a 2-drop. The removal in black in the format is very inexpensive, so a lot of times you're able to remove their first play and then play a Bone Picker on turn 2, or they see that you're an aggressive deck, so they aggressively trade in the early turns, and then you're able to play your Bone Picker as well.
Okay, is Bone Picker one of the more unfair cards in your deck? Because, 1 mana 2/1, 1 mana 1/1, that doesn't scream unfair. But Bone Picker, I see that, and I think, okay, maybe Adam has 6 power on the battlefield by turn 3.
Yeah, your best starts involve Bone Picker. Sometimes you even end up, if you have multiple Bone Pickers, you can chump attack into Night Market Lookout and play a few Bone Pickers, and that's a very strong start.
Yeah, creative ways to get your creatures into the graveyard. Let's go to the next slide. We'll take a look at the 2-drops. Glint-Sleeve Siphoner, Heart of Kiran, only a single copy, and Scrapheap Scrounger. Scrapheap Scrounger has been a mainstay in aggro decks that had any access to black mana, basically.
Yes, it's a very aggressively costed creature. It's recursive. That's kind of exactly what the deck wants to do. You deal a lot of damage early, they're forced to trade, you're able to bring it back. Heart of Kiran, there's only the single copy because, as you may have noticed in the previous slide, a lot of your creatures have to team up to crew it.
Yeah, crew 3 is actually kind of tough, right?
Yeah, so you're relying on your Scrounger and sometimes Bone Picker to crew it. Glint-Sleeve Siphoner is one of my favorite cards in the deck. It's an aggressively costed creature. It's very efficient. Its stats and abilities for its casting costs are very good, and it's one of the few sources of card advantage in the deck.
Yeah, so actually if you consider Dread Wanderer, Glint-Sleeve Siphoner, Scrapheap Scrounger, you do have the ways to play a longer game, not flooding out, getting recursive threats onto the battlefield. Okay, yeah. You do also playing some 3-drops, so let's take a look at these. Okay, Either Sphere Harvester I see a lot. Yahenni sometimes, but Bontu the Glorified, that's pretty rare.
Yeah, Bontu is, it's an interesting card. If you have to go to the late game, it allows you a little bit of reach, especially with your recursive creatures. Dread Wanderer, Scrapheap Scrounger as well is very good with him. Sometimes you're sacking creatures to Yahenni to turn him on. It just allows you a little bit more into the late game, and it's just something else to do. It's a powerful threat.
Is this the poor man's Hazoret, if we're honest?
Sort of. I think Hazoret gets a lot of attention, but Bontu is one of the underappreciated gods of Standard.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Let's go to the next slide, because you have a lot of vehicles. You have a lot of creatures with the potential to become indestructible. And I'm not surprised to see 4 Fatal Push. That's just a given. 2 Walk the Plank, okay. Bontu's Last Reckoning. Now, I was wondering, can I call this deck Mono-Black Aggro if you're playing Wrath of God?
I think so. It actually fits well into your strategy. Obviously, it's a combo with the indestructible Yahenni. many times you can just win a game with that. You make it indestructible. You cast this card. Your Henny ends up getting 5 or 6 counters on it. It's inexpensive enough that sometimes you cast it and you're able to deploy a threat afterwards, play one of your 1-drops or a bone picker. It combos well with Bantu herself because it actually turns on Bantu, being indestructible. She lives through it and can attack afterwards because it's wiped the board. So it's kind of versatile, and also your creatures being at a slightly lower power level than many of the other decks in the format. Eventually, they start deploying cards that are more expensive and much more powerful than yours.
And then you get them, basically. You get them, you trade up effectively, and you have the combo synergy. So it's more like a combo card than an extra removal in your deck.
Yeah, it's a way to get you back to parity where your cards actually will start lining up again with their threats.
Okay, awesome. So let's go to the next slide. Your mana base is relatively straightforward, I want to say.
Yep.
What's the role of If Near Deadlands in your deck?
It kind of just helps you prevent flood. The majority of the time, it's just going to be a slightly painful swamp. But once in a while, you flood out, and it gives you an additional removal spell. Once in a great while, it's actually happened this tournament, you can get 2 of them and remove a Hazoret or something.
Okay, so it has its uses, and it's not a big cost to play it. So that's your deck list. And I think it's a very interesting take on the format because you are monocolored, which gives you this consistency that only Ramunap Red has as an aggro deck.
Yes.
And so what would you say is the key? What kind of hands are you looking for? What's important?
You're always looking for, the curve is the most important thing. Most hands without a 1-drop are probably not keepable. Your cards, some of them are low-powered enough that they need to come right on time. So those are the main things you're looking for. You don't want a hand that's a bunch of the top end, like a couple 2-drops and a Wrath or something like that.
Which makes a lot of sense. You are, after all, Mono-Black Aggro. Adam Jansen, thank you very much. So now you know how to beat down with non-red cards.